What's going on, fight fans? It's your host Sebastian, and welcome back to the Boxing Tip. Now, this will be the last breakdown and prediction video that I make of the Showtime card. It also happens to be the main event of the card, and that particular fight is the rematch between Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton. Now, this is a little bit different because I haven't had to do a breakdown and prediction video on a rematch just yet, so this will be my first one. And I'm going to have to kind of veer away from what I typically do when it comes to making my breakdown and prediction videos and kind of focus on the first fight and see if maybe I can get a better picture, a more clear picture of how the second fight will play out and ultimately determine the pick that I'm going to be going with for the winner of this fight. So let's talk about the first fight really quick, really briefly. Very good fight. I noticed a few things in that fight. I noticed that Leo Santa Cruz waited a lot. He did wait for Carl Frampton quite a bit. Didn't exactly agree with that. Carl Frampton did press the action. Oftentimes he did get a little wild in some of the exchanges, exposing himself to being hit in the middle of those exchanges with Leo Santa Cruz. That was one of the more major things that I noticed for Carl Frampton. Other than that, he fought a pretty good fight. Leo Santa Cruz had a little bit of adjusting to make. He did come on very strong in the second half of the fight and made things very interesting. So what can Leo Santa Cruz do differently in this fight to enhance his chances of winning the rematch? Well, first off, I noticed that he wasn't being a very active jabber in the first fight. Alright, I think that's something that he's going to want to establish against Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton, he's a really in and out type of fighter. He'll press the attack, get off when he needs to, and then get out of there. He's also a very good fighter fighting backwards. Now, the reason why I feel the jab would be important for Leo Santa Cruz to use more is because if he gets into those moments where he isn't pressing the attack, nor is Carl Frampton pressing the attack, you know, those waiting moments, those little moments in between the excitement, you know, those are type of moments that I try to pay attention to. And I noticed in those moments that Leo Santa Cruz wasn't really throwing punches in those particular moments. I think he needs to take advantage of those inactive moments, those times in between the exchanges. I think that's a good opportunity for him to flex that jab. You know what I'm saying? He's got long arms. He's pretty rangy. He's got longer arms than Carl Frampton. I think he needs to use that jab for one particular reason, being that, like I said, Carl Frampton is a very in and out type of fighter. You know what I'm saying? He'll jump in there, get his work done, and then get out of there, wait for the next opportunity, or either he'll take advantage of you continuing the aggression by making you fight him coming forward while he fights going backwards. He is a pretty good boxer fighting backwards. Pretty good counter puncher as well. Very sneaky counter puncher. It's really subtle. But when those inactive moments happen, I would like to see Leo Santa Cruz establishing that jab for when Carl Frampton decides to press that action, to come at him, you know, to shoot those combinations, those scoring blows, you know, whatever makes him look like he's going to win the round. You know what I'm saying? Whether he lands a lot of punches or not, it doesn't really matter. It's the activity. I think Leo Santa Cruz needs to work that jab. Keep Carl Frampton thinking. Keep him at bay from jumping in very quickly, getting off his punches, and then getting out of there. I do think Carl Frampton is the faster guy between himself and Leo Santa Cruz. So, Leo Santa Cruz needs to jab. Keep him thinking. Make him hesitate coming in and pressing the attack. Then, worry about your timing. Try to catch Carl Frampton in between those exchanges. He did a very good job of that in the first fight. You know what I'm saying? Even at times when Carl Frampton did get in and was successful on the inside, on the way out, Leo Santa Cruz had some success as well. When Carl Frampton was on the way of getting out of those exchanges, Leo Santa Cruz had some pretty good success. So I think that is something key that he needs to work on. Really flex that jab and really focus on his timing. Use the jab as sort of a, how would you say it, like a warning system, if you will. You know what I mean? You know, keep that jab, whether it's landing or not, make sure it's snapping. It has to be fast. It cannot be lazy, otherwise you open yourself to being countered under or over your jab. But he needs to make it fast, not with so much conviction to where he's going to throw off his balance, but just enough to, you know, sell the jab. Just sell the jab. Keep it in Carl Frampton's face. You are the more rangier fighter. Let Carl Frampton figure out how he's going to be able to get in and press the attack. You know what I'm saying? And when he finally does, he'll break your early warning system. Either he'll, you know, parry the jab, slap it down to try to get in, or you'll see him change levels, giving you a tell of aggression. You know what I'm saying? You see the aggression coming in, there you go. You know that an exchange is about to happen. Only difference is this time you know it's about to go down. Alright, he's not jumping in and surprising you with pressing the attack. Now you see it coming from a mile away. Now you can get your timing down. You're not going to be faster than him in the exchanges, but at least you know that your reaction to his action, even though it's a little more predetermined for you, because once you feel your jab being challenged and Carl Frampton starts making his way in, or if it's not challenged and he starts changing levels, looking for a way to get on the inside, you already know that your reaction to whatever he's doing is going to be the first action, because you set that off. You know what I'm saying? You initiated this, and that makes you in control. So don't lose control. Focus on your timing. Keep your short, you know what I'm saying, your shots. I know Leo Santa Cruz likes to do a little bit of inside work himself. Keep those shots nice and crisp. I know Leo Santa Cruz has long arms. He might not be able to get as much conviction or as much power on those punches being at a closer range, but if he can catch something that Carl Frampton with something that he doesn't see coming, that'll work well into his advantage. You understand? So make sure that, you know, you are able to read those aggressive moments from Carl Frampton, right? Cool. So another thing about Leo Santa Cruz that I would like him to do something, and he did it in spots, and he was actually really successful in doing it as well, is that he should not, in the exchanges, in the moments where the punches are starting to fly, I noticed that he had a habit of kind of staying squared up. You know what I'm saying? Keeping a more squared up posture and being more stationary, which was giving Carl Frampton an easy target. The target becomes much bigger once the fighter is squared up and is stationary. Much easier target to hit. What I would like to see Santa Cruz do, and I seen him use it in, you know, I think it was just one time that I seen him really do it, but I've seen him, you know, making the attempts to do this, is make very short lateral steps in the exchanges. Alright, because you're forcing Carl Frampton to punch at a target that is slowly moving out of the way. While you are in control of the movement, you can keep your focus on your target, be able to get Carl Frampton at an angle, be able to get some of those shots off. That is until Carl Frampton will more likely negate it by taking a step back. That's simple. I would like to see Leo Santa Cruz utilizing that. Utilizing lateral movement when there is aggression in the ring. You know, when there is exchanges. So try to get Carl Frampton out of position. Get off what you can before he's a smart, you know, Carl Frampton is he's a very intelligent boxer. Once he feels someone gets position on him, he knows what to do to get out of range. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to be safe, protect himself. He'll use his feet and get out of there. Now, another thing about Carl Frampton. Now, one thing I want to see differently from Carl Frampton is I want to see more in and out, you know, style of fighting from him. Even though he already is a bit of an in and out fighter himself, I noticed that he hung around in those exchanges a little bit longer than he had to. Okay, so I don't want to see that from Carl Frampton. I think if he is going to press the attack, make it very short, very sweet, get out of there. I'm not saying like get out of there and start running around the ring until you get the next moment, but get in there, get your shots off, get out, reset, and repeat. But vary your attack, change the rhythm on your punches. Not every punch needs to be at the same pace with the same conviction. So as long as he can mix up his rhythm, keep Leo Santa Cruz guessing when it, keep him trying to get the timing down. You know what I'm saying? The more time, the easier you make it for Leo Santa Cruz to get his timing down on you, the easier target you become to being hit by Leo Santa Cruz. Carl Frampton was starting to kind of get a little repetitive with his attacks, in the second half of the fight, which was giving Leo Santa Cruz opportunities to be successful. So I want to see that changed up a little bit, by Carl Frampton. Another thing from Leo Santa Cruz, I noticed that in his exchanges, his punching as well looked like it was very predictable, very, how would you say it, the rhythm and the conviction on those punches. He looked like he was putting his all into those punches. I don't like to see that too much. It's necessary at times, but in a match that is very tedious, against a fighter who is very tedious when he is in exchanges, a guy who can easily get in and easily get out, you don't want to have your conviction, you don't want to put all your power into all the shots that you're throwing. You know what I'm saying? It could throw you off balance and and it makes it easier for a guy who has better footwork to establish a position on you, to throw punches and be able to score on you. So I want to see Leo Santa Cruz this time around being a little bit more selective with the punches that he puts his power on. You know what I'm saying? It keeps Carl Frampton guessing, okay? And it could potentially bait him in to opening up and then creating an opportunity for Leo Santa Cruz to slip in. Whether it's in, a very close distance, a nice short, right uppercut, maybe even a nice short left hook or a left uppercut, depending on the situation. If you find Carl Frampton leaning forward and, distributing his weight to his front foot, uppercut would want to be your punch that you want to look for. Or if you see Carl Frampton, you know what I'm saying, he's he's postured upright, kind of in a more of a neutral stance, not really fighting, how do I say this, with his weight distributed on his back foot, a more defensive stance. If you can catch him in a more neutral stance, a hook would be something to aim for, at his chin, because more than likely when a fighter gets into a neutral posture where his weight is distributed evenly, that usually indicates the stance of throwing power punches. You know what I'm saying? You want to distribute your weight evenly when you throw your power punches. You can transfer the motions between, because you're keeping your balance, the motion from your hip followed through with your punch. You know what I'm saying? All the momentum in one motion. So if Leo Santa Cruz can find Carl Frampton in a more neutral stance, that would be a good opportunity to throw some hooks. His weight is even, his feet are planted, and being that he's in a more neutral stance, it makes it a little bit harder for him to, it would be more of a surprise to Carl Frampton, being that he planted his feet and he's ready to punch. You know what I'm saying? So you could really catch him in between his punches or over his punches. So I think that's something that Leo Santa Cruz should really look out for. So there was a lot, like I said, man, there's a lot of things that both guys did well in the first fight, and there's a few things that the guys didn't do very well. You know what I'm saying? Leo Santa Cruz, I think, could have been more effective in the first fight, but it seemed that he was trying to catch Carl Frampton, during his aggression. And not saying that he was relying on one big power punch to end the fight or anything, but still, instead of creating opportunities for him to be offensive, he was relying on Carl Frampton to make any mistake on the, at a closer range with him, and rely on those opportunities to be effective. See, and it works that way sometimes. You could get away with doing it, but you got to know when it's coming. I don't think Leo Santa Cruz expected Carl Frampton to be as aggressive as he was in the first fight. So, but now that I think that Leo Santa Cruz has a little bit better understanding of how Carl Frampton chose to approach fighting him, I think he can maybe make some adjustments in his game, and really try some new things in the second fight that could be effective for him. Carl Frampton, he fought a really good fight. Like I said, he just hung around into those exchanges a little bit longer than he needed to. And what I think he should do is kind of adjust his rhythm. You know what I'm saying? His rhythm, the conviction on his punches, it should really vary with Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz, being that he is the less speedier fighter of the two, is gonna really attempt to time Carl Frampton. So Carl Frampton needs to keep varying his attacks, varying his offense, and keep Leo Santa Cruz occupied trying to figure out his timing. But that's kind of what my analysis of this is. I'm sure there's plenty more things that I could have went over, but these are things that I felt that were really significant for both fighters to do if in order to be, you know, more successful than they were in the first fight. The first fight was really close, you know what I'm saying? You know, I know there's been a couple videos about the punch count, you know, and stuff like that, but you know, your first impression of actually watching the fight, like mine was that it was a very close fight. You know what I'm saying? I thought the fight could have went either way. You know, I'm still not convinced who the real winner was, though, in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm glad there is a rematch. So I really want to see a real separation between these two fighters. I want to see someone separate themselves, you know what I'm saying, in the fight, because I like both fighters a lot. And I think that they are pretty, you know what I'm saying, even in competitiveness when it comes to each other. But I would like to see either fighter bring something new to the table and really establish a separation in who the better fighter is in that fight, okay? But with that being said, I guess I can go ahead and move on to my pick. And once again, this is another really hard one to pick from because I like both fighters. I think both fighters are very talented. I enjoy watching both fighters. It really is hard. It was hard for me to imagine a winner in the first fight. It's really hard for me to imagine a winner in this fight. You know what I'm saying? Being that both fighters had such a competitive fight in their first fight, you don't really know who's gonna really pull out. You know what I'm saying? Who's really gonna show that separation. So I'm gonna go with my gut again because the way these two fighters stack up against each other, man, it makes for such a great matchup. So I'm gonna go with my gut and pick Carl Frampton to be the winner of this fight, once again by a decision. I think that he will learn. You know, he seems like a very intelligent fighter. I feel like he'll learn from his mistakes in the first fight, you know, letting Leo Santa Cruz become effective in the second half, you know, avoiding unnecessary exchanges with Leo Santa Cruz. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll make a few adjustments in his game plan for this rematch and possibly show that separation. Nevertheless, I do still feel like it's going to be a close fight. I don't think either fighter can avoid that happening. I would like to see a separation because I want to know who the better fighter is for sure, but at the same time, I find it very hard to expect either fighter to show that real separation. But I am going with Carl Frampton. That is my official pick by decision. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section below. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share this video with your boxing homies. Introduce somebody to boxing. Get them caught up on all the action. Make sure they do not miss out on this upcoming weekend's fights. Very exciting fights. Tune in to HBO and Showtime. You know, whatever one you decide to pick, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. Both fights, both cards are sure to have some real fireworks. So you're a winner either way. Either one you pick, you're a winner. Just make sure that you can record the other one. But with that being said, guys, that's all I got for you guys on this one. I will talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.